Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Five Star Zone. I'm your host, Rico Beard. And yeah, you know what? We have a Big Ten champion, and I don't think anybody outside of the city of Bloomington thought that it would be Indiana, not Ohio State. Indiana wins the Big Ten championship in Indianapolis. So a short drive from the campus of Bloomington. And I'm quite sure the Hoosier fans are still buzzing right now as Indiana, even though they were down 10-6 at halftime, find a way. They win the game 13-10. Look, Ohio State had their chances. They blew it on a fourth and one. Replay went back and said that no, Saints knee was down. And then late in the game, a decision that I think Ryan Day may have to think about and deal with for a long time. And I think a lot of it dealt with the fact that they didn't get the fourth down the previous time, and it was 4th and 1. They were down in the red zone. They had a chance to just kind of put this game away, and instead they decided to kick the field goal. And they then they missed the field goal. So it would have tied the game up, but it was just kind of weird because Ryan Day just went super conservative. He also went conservative like at the end of the first half, just kind of running the clock out, really anti-Ohio State types of things, because Ohio State's known for the middle eight, like really attacking right before the half and coming out attacking at halftime. But the play calling late in that championship game really was a head scratcher, because I would have thought with all the talent that Ohio State had, they would have had some type of play to run to pick up the first down and then just kind of put this thing away, score the touchdown, walk away, walk off championship. Instead, Indiana's defense, but both teams played excellent defense, but Indiana's defense rose to the occasion. Ohio State was known for their defense. You know what, against Ohio State, you'll probably get one touchdown a game. They did. Mendoza hit Surratt for the game-winning touchdown in the third quarter, but it was the Indiana defense. Indiana's known for just the offense that they had, but Ohio State had so many problems. And shout out to Mendoza, who will probably end up winning the Heisman Trophy. Mendoza, slow start, looked like maybe, his biggest fears were going to happen. People saying, well, you haven't played anybody. Look at what happened with Ohio State. Ohio State had Mendoza down in the first quarter, but then he came back in the last 3 and he showed everything. To me, he showed that he's going to end up being your Heisman Trophy winner from the state of Indiana. Kirk Cincinnati is ruining things for everybody, and every coach is being compared to him. Fair or unfair, it's happening. He's like that guy that shows up to your job and you've been doing things for a certain way for the longest, but then this guy shows up and now he's getting the sales. He's doing things that normally took you forever, and he's doing it instantly. Now everybody's looking at everybody else saying, are we supposed to pick up and start doing things that way? Well, yeah, that's what Cignetti is doing, not just to the Big Ten coaches, but he's doing it to all coaches, because Indiana was not a blue blood. Indiana does not have the storied history. Heck, the last time I think Indiana won the Big Ten was, I think, in the 60s. So Indiana did this. Indiana does not have the pedigree. Indiana didn't have the resources, but he went in there. He made them, hey, let me go get my guys from James Madison. Let me go and bring my people in here. Trust me on this. Made the playoffs back-to-back years, and this time, because Indiana won, they are number 1 in the country going into this playoffs. Number 1, Indiana. Yeah, it seems like a fever dream, but yeah, I mean, it's the reason why Jonathan Smith, I think, got fired after 2 years. It's the reason why coaches now only get 2 years, because Cignetti's ruined the curve. Cignetti is just went in there, and he is burning this thing down. And it was kind of funny even afterwards when he wins the whole thing and he just walks it on the field. You don't see the excitement. You don't see the cheer. Why? Because he expected to win that. He expected to be champion. And it was just business as usual for Kirk Cignetti. He's a maniac. And he's a guy that most people would not have hired. Most people would have said he was too old. Indiana took a chance, and Indiana is reaping the benefits, no regrets All they do is win, win, win. They defeat the Buckeyes. Buckeyes still have not won a Big Ten title since 2020. I thought they were going to get it, but hey, last year they lost to Michigan and went off and won the national championship. Hey, don't feel sorry for Ohio State. They're going to be fine. But I do think that Ryan Day is going to regret that decision late in the game of just not going for it and using your best players out on the field. He went for the field goal, missed the field goal. Rest was history as Indiana comes across as your Big Ten champions. Now, as I stated, Indiana comes in at number 1, but don't worry, Ohio State, they just flop with Indiana. Ohio State Buckeyes come in at number 2 in the college football playoffs, followed by number 3 is Georgia, who, they handled Alabama, but caused a little bit of controversy along the way as hold on. Let me make sure I get the right score here, because when they beat Alabama, it was just like, you've got to be kidding me. 28-7. Yeah, 28-7. Alabama really was never in this game, but Alabama did not drop. Now, here's where the bias comes in. It's Alabama's SEC. They got the brand name, and they were always going to make sure that Alabama was going to make it in here. The College Football Playoff Committee should do us all a favor. First of all, stop with the shows on Tuesday. You all are a bunch of liars. You're not consistent. And all you do is deceive the public into believing certain things, and then you change it the next week. And it reminds me of the commercial where you got the old man who has the dollar on the fishing line saying, you almost got it. And people think, oh, I figured you out. No, you can't figure them out because they're all a bunch of liars. They're all inconsistent, and they have an agenda. And Sunday showed me that they had an agenda, and they knew what they wanted, and they knew who they wanted, and they knew how to manipulate the polls to make sure that everybody got in that they wanted. So, College Football Playoff Committee, just kill those shows on Tuesday. You're a bunch of liars, and it doesn't make sense. 2, I really hope that somebody makes a tweak. There is no way we should have 2 group of 5 teams in the college football playoffs. I'm anti-group of 5 because for college football, here's the thing. You have a unique product, but you're trying to be like the NFL. And then with this playoff system, you're trying to be like college basketball. Well, here's the thing. In college basketball, you've had Cinderella upsets. In college football, until I see a group of 5 team go out there and actually represent and win a game and do it consistently, like if the group of 5 went out there and won 3 out of the next 5 years, I would say, okay, they belong, but it's a free square. I mean, it's going to be a free square because, look, James Madison was the last team to make it in. They're going to be playing number 5 Oregon at Oregon. I think the point spread for that game is already like 3 touchdowns. You also have Tulane, who won their conference. They're in, and they're going to be playing Ole Miss, and I think they're a 17-point underdog already in this game. Look, Vegas is telling you the game is not going to be there. It's almost like instead of 4 buys, you got 6 buys because Ole Miss and Oregon are going to reap the benefits of playing inferior talent. That's how it is, plain and simple. I've often said, just put all the group of 5 teams together and let them play their own tournament. It would be an apples to apples type of thing where you actually would have a chance to win. Right now, James Madison and right now Tulane will get the patch on their sleeve. They'll get to brag to their alums and say they were in the playoffs, but they won't make any headway. They won't be any significant things. The other games, yeah, that's going to look like fun. Alabama taking on Oklahoma, and then you got the Miami taking on Texas A&M. But the group of 5, I thought it was just going to be 1, but because, how could I put this? Because the ACC is so bad, and they had some stupid rule, they left Miami out of the ACC championship game. Then the doomsday scenario happened, and Duke wins the ACC, eliminating Virginia. But Duke has 5 wins. No way Duke's going to get in. You with me so far? Good, because here's where the funny business came in. That's why Tulane made it, because Tulane was the next biggest conference champion, so they got the automatic bid. If Miami had just been placed in the ACC championship game and they win that game, they get the automatic bid, but they didn't. And you can't tell me, well, you can't do that because COVID showed me that you can manipulate things. I harken back to the Big Ten, where it was supposed to be Indiana playing in the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern, but instead they manipulated it and gave Ohio State the shot, and Ohio State went in there instead of Indiana. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. You can manipulate this stuff. The ACC chose not to, and it cost them kind of. Miami gets a bid, but Miami got the bid in because Notre Dame didn't. And Notre Dame should have been in there, and I'd have rather seen Texas in there than really the two Group of 5 teams because I think you would have got better games. But because now here's where they manipulated it, and it worked out, but I think the College Football Playoff Committee stumbled into positive results. Notre Dame is left out over Miami. Why? Because Miami actually beat Notre Dame earlier in the season. I think it was like week 1 or week 2. So head-to-head, they were in there. Now, all the way up until Sunday, Notre Dame was ahead of them, but then Notre Dame didn't play. Miami didn't play, but somehow they dropped. Things got manipulated, and Miami gets in. Notre Dame gets out. Notre Dame's so pissed. Notre Dame says, F it, we're not playing in the bowl game, which is kind of fun. I don't think Marcus Freeman could have gotten these guys motivated to play in a meaningless game because they didn't want to be there. They wanted to be in the playoffs. They thought they were going to be in the playoffs. They won 10 straight. Now, the funny thing is they didn't make it, so they're opting out. No big deal. Texas didn't make it, and Texas said, if we don't make it, here's something to watch out for. Texas said if they don't make it, they're canceling their game against Ohio State next year. Why? They'd rather pay the buyout because there's nothing for them to gain if they lose. If Texas did not play Ohio State, Texas would be in. They got punished for playing the Buckeyes. You're going to see more teams, I think, opt out and play a more watered-down schedule to get to the miraculous 10 wins. 10 wins and you're in, and you can fight for it and say that you're there. But that's what's going to happen. If Notre Dame didn't schedule Miami, they would be in there because they would have put a cupcake on the schedule, and they would be 11-1 right now, and you'd be looking at the Irish in there. This system is so broken. This system has to be fixed, and people can fix it, but it's too much money on the table. Like I said, you can't get 3 people in a room to decide on what to put on a 2-topping pizza, let alone these idiots who run the College Football Playoff Committee. And they just can't get things right because everybody has an agenda. Look, in the end, I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that you got way too many. If you're going to put 1 Group of 5 in, fine. You don't need to put 2 in. Group of 5 teams don't win. Sorry, not sorry. I'd rather see Notre Dame. I'd rather see Texas get those final 2 spots, not James Madison, not Tulane. I don't think that if you combine those 2 teams together, that they would get a victory out of there. But that's what happened with the college football playoffs. That's the thing. As I said, Ohio State came in at 2. They didn't drop. They just dropped 1 spot. Georgia State at 3. Alabama was the other interesting thing because Alabama got the break speed off of them. It wasn't a close game. See, I can understand Ohio State and Indiana swapping spots because it was a 13-10 game, very tight game, defensive struggle. I mean, nobody really had a gigantic lead throughout the game. Georgia did. Georgia was up big. Alabama scored a touchdown, Jeremy Bernard. But it was a Georgia game. Georgia just soundly defeated Alabama. And if it was anybody but Alabama, Alabama would have dropped in the polls. Alabama remained exactly the same. Someone needs to explain to me how Alabama getting the brakes beat off of them does not drop, doesn't compute. I don't understand it. Heck, even Ohio State dropped. Alabama stayed the same. Alabama's in. And you could tell me where they're Bama. Well, if you're going to just put people in off of their name, then why isn't Notre Dame in? Why isn't Texas in there? Alabama, if anything, did not deserve that game because they had an awful game late. Alabama did not deserve it, but the playoff committee made sure that Alabama was in. Now we'll see if they can regroup and see what happens. We've seen people lose the SEC title game before. Georgia lost it and came back and won the title. It can happen. But in all fairness, I mean, guys, this system is a absolute freaking joke, plain and simple. And you keep trying to tell the people, no, it's fair, it's fair. It's not. We all see it. I expect major rules to change and happen starting next year. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I do know this little known fact. Notre Dame was smart enough, but they weren't as smart as they wanted to be. But Notre Dame will now, in the event that they're ranked in the top, I think 12, they're in. They're going to be in this tournament, and they would have been in this year had this rule been implemented this year, but it goes in place next year. And if they go to the 14 team, I think if they're in the top 13, they automatically are in, no questions asked. I mean, it's pretty shrewd for Notre Dame and their lawyers to make sure that's in there. But this year, they're not. They're on the out, and they just said, we're not playing anything. We're done. We're not going to play any bowl games. So I don't think I've ever seen a team rank that high just opt out. But look, if your heart ain't in it, I get it. I understand. If you're Notre Dame, yeah, just do what you got to do. It's like you're rich. You don't have a conference that's going to get mad. Two teams opted out of the Big 12, and they're each going to get fined $500,000. So nobody's finding Notre Dame. Notre Dame took their ball. Notre Dame went home. All right. I do want to touch upon this too. Also, some big news happened during the week. And man, must be nice to have friends like this. But Michigan State gets a donation, an historic donation, $401 million. Greg and Dawn Williams, out of their own money, not from his company of Akashore. No. He made sure to let you know this came from their personal account. The money is going to be $401 million, going to be given to Michigan State to help out their plans to renovate the stadium and renovate, that $1 billion venture that they had. Of the $401 million, 290 of it goes towards the renovations of the stadium and that $1 billion venture that they have. $1 million goes to a thing called Spartan Ventures, where it's going to help out and to grow and keep NIL status for Michigan State. And the other remains goes to academic, and some goes to the band and other things on campus. And it was funny because I got a chance to talk to Greg at the Michigan State basketball game against Duke, and I asked him the question, like, okay, was all this money coming up front? And he was like, well, no, some of it is coming some is gonna be there immediately, but some is also gonna come over an installment plan. So it's not just one big check. Some money is gonna come over an installment plan. As far as the Spartan Ventures and the $100 million in NIL, that's an investment. And guys, look, if you invest $100 million correctly, the interest alone would be enough that you could give the football team money to pay players on top of the money that you'll already get from the school. And you'll never really touch the $100 million ever if you do this thing correctly. Now, what does this mean? It means that Michigan State went from a have not to a have. It means that Pat Fitzgerald, the brand new coach, is walking in there and he's got money to spend, and he's got money to buy players, and he's got money to go out there in the portal and get some of the best teams. And if you say it can't happen, once again, let's go back to the beginning of this pod talking about Indiana. But if you want another example, let's look at Texas Tech. Texas Tech is the number 3 team. No, they're the number 4 team in the college football playoff. And they went out, spent $7 million on their defensive line, and nobody scores against Texas Tech. They won the Big 12 easily over BYU. That's what now you can do if you're Michigan State. So, yeah, the stadium, I expect the stadium to actually break ground probably in the spring and get this thing going. From what I understand is the east side of the stadium for Spartan fans, where the old gas pumps used to be, that's that new facade that you see in all the pictures. And for what I understand, they'll probably just have to section off parts of the east side of the stadium away from fans. Very similar to what Missouri and other schools have done when they did stadium renovations on the fly. They will be able, because I thought maybe they would have to take some games to Ford Field or Comerica Park. No, they'll be able to play games in Spartan Stadium, but you may see parts of the stadium blocked off as the construction dictates. But the $100 million going to NIL, Pat Fitzgerald will be able to use that money, go into the portal, and we'll know. We will know more, and I'll know more because people have been asking me, like, well, what do you think about him? I don't know. Now, he's bringing back some of the staff members. Blue Adams is coming back, and it looks like Joe Rossi is coming back. Now, a lot of Spartan fans upset about that, but kind of like how I see with Fitzgerald, what happens? What happens if Joe Rossi has money to go out there and get some of the better players? I look at what that defense can do, but I haven't seen that defense playing with a bunch of guys out there who could really get the job done. A bunch of guys out there who can just fly around, that you'll have a bunch of Jordan Halls out there instead of just one. I'm okay with this Rossi coming back because you'll be able to go out and get and recruit top players to come to your school. I'm really anxious to see. Like I said, when the portal closes in the middle of July, that's when I'll know more about what this team is going to be this coming fall. But right now, thanks to the gift of Greg and Don Williams, $401 million. And once again, Greg's not even an alum of the school. Michigan, he's just a great friend of Tom Izzo. They've known each other for a while, and he donated the money, and it helps. And if you don't believe it helps, I think it was how Izzo was able to get one of the top recruiting classes to come in to play basketball for him next year because they knew this money was coming. Well, the money is now here. Let's see what the football team does. But look, are they going to do what Indiana did? I can't make Spartan fans that promise, but if you spend this thing wisely and if you go out there and you can see what the talent is and you bring in the right people, I don't see why. I mean, I got into an argument with Jim Costa on the morning show, and he was like, Michigan State should just, if they're Iowa football, they should be happy. And I'm like, no, you should try to be Indiana. You should try to win the Big Ten. You should try to be the best team because you'll have the money, you'll have the resources. You got a coach in Fitzgerald who actually understands the Big Ten. You have a coach in Fitzgerald who knows what Michigan State culture is. You have a coach in Fitzgerald who knows how to fire up the crowd. I've seen this man in 2 basketball games, and he's shown, more personality than the former coach just in his pinky finger. You have a man who knows what it's like for Michigan State and then rivalry you have with Michigan. If this thing goes the way people think it's going to go, then Jay Batt did a great job with the hiring and getting all the money in for this proposed building of and enhancing the stadium and getting the NIL packages together and taking Michigan State from, like I said, from a have-not into a have. That's the goal. That's what we're hoping for. That's what it's looking like. And I think that it will. Now, as far as the rest of the coaches coming from Pat Fitzgerald, I think it's going to be a slower process. It may even go into January where they have the coaches convention. I don't know. There's a lot of guys that I thought maybe he would go after for an OC. Jason Candle was one, but the Toledo coach, he just took the job at UConn. So that's one name that's off the board. I don't know where the offense is going to go. I don't know what other coaches they're going to be able to retain, but I just know that they have the money, they have the resources, they're making the improvements, and $401 million goes a long way that you'll be able to pay the players because the guys, that's what the game is now. It's not about recruiting because it's funny because signing day happened, and I always laugh because it used to be the biggest thing that everybody would be on pins and needles for all these high school kids, and now it's just like, okay, well, they're there. But I think the portal has become more important because that's instant impact. It's rare that you get the high school kid who could come in and start from day one, but your portal players can. If you got a star receiver, if you have a star running back, a star corner, yes. Star quarterback, as you saw with Michigan, you struggle. You saw with Maryland. You're going to struggle some. You're going to lose some games. But it's the people that you get in the portal. Those are the ones that get you started, get you elevated, and get you to the top a lot faster. Full circle. Let's go back. See Indiana football. Indiana football hit the portal the right way. Indiana football back-to-back playoffs. And they're this year's Big Ten champions. So congratulations to the Hoosiers. And good luck to the Hoosiers. Good luck to the Buckeyes when it comes to the college football playoffs. And maybe the Big Ten can keep this thing in the conference and win another title. All right, I'll be back. Oh, by the way, and as I stated before, I think Mendoza's probably going to win the Heisman come Saturday. So just a thought. That's this episode of the 5-Star Zone. Thanks for watching and subscribing. Keep liking. Tell your friends. I'm your host, Rico Beard. Until next time, we're going to start talking a lot more basketball coming up this week.